All right, everyone, get ready. Because today we are going deep into human consciousness, into symbolism, and it gets pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to be looking at this really thought-provoking clip from Jordan Peterson's YouTube channel
Okay.
and really exploring this whole idea that we are not just our conscious thoughts, but we're, like he says, multi-leveled creatures.
Yeah, and it's interesting how these different levels interact
Yay.
in ways that we're not always aware of.
Yeah.
It's like there's this whole world kind of influencing our thoughts and behaviors,
Illuminated.
even our decisions.
So, like, even when I think I'm being totally logical,
Yeah.
there could be these, like, deeper emotional forces that I'm not even aware of. That's kind of unsettling, right?
It really does challenge our assumptions about free will,
For sure.
but it also opens up this whole new way of understanding ourselves, I think.
Totally. And Peterson uses some really interesting examples to illustrate this,
Yeah.
He talks about religious iconography, like images of Mary or the crucifix. And it's not even necessarily about religious belief here, but he's saying that these symbols tap into something much deeper, like a kind of universal human experience that resonates with us on an unconscious level.
Exactly. And he even says that if something is connected to everything, like these powerful symbols,
Yeah.
you could talk about it forever and never run out of things to say.
Wow.
It's inexhaustible. And that inexhaustibility is a clue that we're touching on something profound, something that goes beyond our everyday understanding.
That's making me think, like, what are some symbols for me that have a deep meaning? I'm suddenly really curious about what those might reveal. But to get into specifics, Peterson talks about the crucifix as a symbol, as an example. He interprets it as representing transformation,
Okay.
the death of the old self and the birth of the new.
Yet not literally, of course,
Right.
but as a metaphor for personal growth and resilience. That comes from facing our fears and embracing change.
So it's about confronting those, like, difficult things in life, the
Yeah.
pain, the challenges, and coming out the other side
Yeah,
transformed. That resonates with me for sure.
for sure.
I can think of some things like that.
Absolutely, we all have.
Yeah.
Our ability to confront those deaths and rebirths, those moments of profound change, is what truly makes us strong and resilient, I think.
Now, this next part really got me thinking.
Okay.
Peterson talks about the power of listening, like really, truly listening as a transformative act.
Okay.
And it's way harder than it sounds.
Absolutely. He draws on the work of Carl Rogers,
Right.
a renowned therapist who emphasized the importance of empathy and unconditional positive regard in therapy. And Rogers believed that truly listening to someone without judgment or interruption creates the space for them to feel heard and understood. And that could be incredibly healing and transformative.
I can see how that would be powerful.
But it is tough to really let go of your own opinions and just listen.
It requires a willingness to kind of step outside of your own perspective.
Right.
And try to see the world through someone else's eyes, to be open to something that might challenge your beliefs or assumptions.
That's a great point. I wonder if our resistance to listening is kind of connected to this idea of being a multi-leveled creature, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's our ego, that conscious part of ourselves
Right.
that's afraid to let go and be open to new perspectives.
It's certainly possible. After all, if we're constantly trying to defend our viewpoint, we're not really open to learning and growing.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating.
Okay.
Peterson brings up some research that shows just how powerful our unconscious can be. He describes this study where people were shown faces
Right.
for just a fraction of a second, like 50 to 100 milliseconds.
Oh.
And they could accurately predict
Yeah.
the person's sexual orientation.
At a rate better than chance.
Interesting.
It's mind-blowing how quickly our brains are making these judgments without us even being aware of it.
It's pre-conscious automatic processing.
Wow.
And what's even more intriguing is that after seeing a face, people in the study actually performed better on cognitive tests
What?
if they utilized stereotypes associated with that perceived sexual orientation.
Oh, wow.
So it's like seeing the face activated a whole network
Okay.
of associated ideas influencing their performance without them even knowing it.
That's incredible. Peterson calls these networks of associated ideas complexes, right?
Yes.
Can you explain a bit more about what he means by that?
Yeah, a complex in this psychological sense is basically a cluster of ideas, images, emotions,
Okay.
even behaviors
Yeah.
that are all linked together in our unconscious. They can be triggered by all sorts of things, a word, a sound, a smell, a face like we saw. What's really wild is that these complexes can influence our actions and perceptions without us realizing it.
So you're saying that even our personalities are, in some sense, complexes.
Exactly. It's this fascinating interplay of conscious and unconscious forces that make us who we are.
Wow.
And really challenges this understanding of what it means to be a conscious individual.
This all ties back to Peterson's main point, this idea that what we find interesting, it grabs our attention, reveals the workings of our unconscious.
Exactly.
It's like we're drawn to certain things involuntarily. We don't always consciously choose our fascinations, you know?
Right, and that raises some really interesting questions.
Okay.
What fascinates you? What are you drawn to?
Yeah.
Even if you can't quite explain why. What might those interests reveal about your deeper self, about the unconscious forces shaping your thoughts and actions?
Peterson even tells this funny story about trying to make himself focus on something boring, and his mind just keeps wandering off.
To more interesting thoughts?
Yeah, it's like our unconscious is always trying to guide us towards what it finds meaningful, even if we're trying to resist it.
Interesting.
He compares it to, like, trying to lead a horse to water, but not being able to make it drink.
Got it.
Yeah.
It's that involuntary nature of interest that Peterson finds so revealing.
Yeah.
Like it's a clue to something deeper within us. And sometimes those things that really grab our attention, the things we can't stop thinking about, even if they seem, I don't know, random or silly, might be the most revealing of all.
Absolutely. It's like our unconscious is saying, hey, pay attention to this.
Right.
There's something important here for you to learn.
This is giving me a whole new perspective on my own interests and fascinations. What about you? Have you ever noticed that feeling of being drawn to something you can't quite explain?
All the time. And I think it's worth exploring those fascinations.
You never know what you might discover about yourself.
Welcome back. Last time we were talking about how those things we're interested in, like the things that grab our attention without us even trying, can reveal a lot about our unconscious desires and motivations. It's kind of like our unconscious is speaking to us through those fascinations, giving us clues about who we are at our core.
It's a fascinating idea, right? That there's this hidden language of symbols and metaphors that our unconscious uses to communicate.
So how do we start to decipher these clues?
Yeah.
How can we make sense of what our interests are trying to tell us?
Well, one way is to look for patterns and themes.
Okay.
What are the common threads that run through the things that really fascinate you? Like if you're drawn to stories about heroes overcoming adversity, that might suggest a deep-seated need for courage and resilience in your own life.
That makes sense. Or if someone's, I don't know, always interested in mysteries and puzzles, maybe that points to a thirst for knowledge and understanding, like the hidden workings of the world. It's like our interests are like a reflection of our inner landscape, a map of our unconscious desires and aspirations.
And by studying this map, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and what truly motivates us.
You know, this makes me think about those personality tests, you know, those ones that ask you to choose between different images or scenarios.
Right.
Do you think those are tapping into the same idea of unconscious preferences?
I think they certainly could be.
Yeah.
Many of those tests are based on the premise that our choices, even the ones that seem arbitrary, can reveal something about our underlying personality traits and values.
It's as if our unconscious is always, I don't know, dropping these little hints and clues about who we are if we just know where to look.
Exactly. And the more attention we pay to those hints, the more we can piece together a comprehensive picture of ourselves. And that self-awareness is really what this exploration of the unconscious is all about, right?
Totally. Understanding those hidden forces that shape our thoughts and feelings and behaviors gives us more control over our lives, I think.
Yeah.
We can make more conscious choices.
It's like taking back the reins from our unconscious and becoming the true authors of our own stories.
I like that.
But how do we start?
Yeah.
What are some practical steps someone can take if they want to delve deeper into their own unconscious?
That's a great question. Yeah. What would you suggest?
Well, one simple but surprisingly powerful practice is to start keeping a journal of your interests.
Oh, okay.
Just jot down things that catch your attention throughout the day.
Okay.
The books you're reading, the shows you're watching, the conversations you're drawn to.
A journal of my interests.
Yeah.
I like that. But what do we do with all that information once we've collected it?
once you've got a collection of your interests, start looking for patterns and themes.
Right.
What are the common threads? What are the underlying desires and motivations that might be driving those interests?
It's like we're becoming detectives of our own minds, searching for clues, piecing together the evidence.
And don't be afraid to go deep.
Okay.
Ask yourself the tough questions. Why am I so drawn to this particular topic? What is it about this story that resonates so deeply with me?
Yeah.
What unmet needs or desires might be driving this fascination?
It's like we're peeling back the layers of ourselves. Uncovering the hidden depth of our being.
Exactly. And who knows what treasures you might unearth along the way.
Right.
You might uncover hidden talents, passions, or even wounds that you weren't aware of before.
This reminds me of something Peterson said about the power of listening. He was talking about how important it is to truly listen to others. But it seems like the same principle applies to listening to ourselves as well.
Absolutely. To understand our unconscious, we need to listen to its whispers. Pay attention to those subtle cues and signals that it's sending us.
It's like we're tuning in to a radio frequency that we haven't been paying attention to before. And suddenly we're picking up all these rich and complex signals we never even knew were there.
That's a great analogy. It's almost as if we have this whole inner world that we've been ignoring, and it's bursting with insights and wisdom, just waiting to be discovered.
I love that, an inner world waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
It feels like we're talking about coming home to ourselves, finally embracing all the hidden facets of our being.
And that homecoming can be incredibly liberating.
Totally.
It frees us to live more authentically, to make choices that align with our true selves, and to create lives that are truly fulfilling.
So how do we cultivate this deep listening? What are some practical things we can do to become more attuned to our inner world?
Well, meditation is a powerful practice for this.
Okay.
By quieting the mind and turning our attention inward, we can begin to hear the whispers of our unconscious more clearly.
Meditation can be a bit intimidating for those of us who are new to it. Any tips for beginners?
Start small.
Okay.
Even just a few minutes each day can make a big difference.
Okay.
Find a quiet place. Get comfortable. And just focus on your breath. And as thoughts come up, and they will simply acknowledge them and gently redirect your attention back to your breath.
So it's not about emptying our minds completely, but more about learning to observe our thoughts without getting swept away by them.
Exactly. It's about creating space for stillness and allowing ourselves to be present with whatever arises.
And in that stillness, we might just start to hear those whispers of our unconscious more clearly. It's like we're creating a clearing in the forest of our thoughts, allowing the subtle whispers of our intuition to come through.
I like that. It's like creating a sacred space within a sanctuary where we can connect with our deepest wisdom.
This is all so inspiring. I'm feeling so motivated to explore my own inner world and see what hidden treasures I might uncover.
That's wonderful. Remember, this journey of self-discovery is a lifelong endeavor. There's always more to explore, more to learn, and more to grow into.
This has been such a rich conversation.
It has.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. But that's the beauty of it, right? There's always more to discover.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this journey so exciting. It's an ongoing exploration, a process of continual unfolding.
I can't wait to dive even deeper into these mysteries of the unconscious mind in our next segment.
Me too. And we'll also explore how we can actually apply these insights to live more meaningful and fulfilling lives. So see you back here soon for the grand finale.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. It's been quite a journey exploring the unconscious and those hidden forces that shape our lives.
Yeah, it has.
Now, I'm really excited to kind of tackle those big questions.
Okay.
You know, the ones that have had philosophers and poets scratching their heads for centuries. What's the meaning of life? What's our purpose? How can we live lives that feel truly authentic and fulfilling?
Those are the questions, aren't they? And while there aren't any easy answers, I think exploring our unconscious minds might offer some valuable clues.
Last time we were talking about how our interests can be like messages from our unconscious.
Yeah.
Just trying to guide us
Right.
toward a deeper understanding of ourselves, even if we don't consciously realize it.
Exactly. And often those messages come in the form of symbols and metaphors.
Okay.
The language of the unconscious. Think about the myths and stories that have resonated with humans for thousands of years.
Right.
They're packed with archetypes and symbolic imagery that speaks to our deepest fears, desires, and aspirations.
Like the hero's journey, that's a story we see over and over again in cultures all over the world.
Exactly. The hero's journey is a metaphor for the journey we all take in life.
Okay.
We face obstacles, we confront our fears,
Right.
and we emerge from those experiences changed.
Yeah.
And it's that process of transformation that gives our lives meaning and purpose.
So it's not about finding some, predetermined purpose out there in the world,
Right.
but about embracing the journey of self-discovery and becoming the heroes of our own lives.
That's a great way to put it. The meaning of life isn't something we find.
Right.
It's something we create through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to embrace the challenges we face.
That makes me think about what Peterson said about facing our fears. He uses that image of the crucifix, not necessarily in a religious sense,
Right.
but as a symbol of death and resurrection. Letting go of old patterns, beliefs, behaviors that don't serve us anymore.
Right.
And opening ourselves up to the possibility of something new.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
Speaks to that constant process of shedding our old selves and being reborn to something new.
Wow.
And that process, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
isn't always easy.
For sure.
It can be painful. It can be challenging.
Yeah, definitely. But it also sounds incredibly liberating,
Yeah.
We shed those limitations of the past and step into a fuller version of who we are.
That's the potential. But it all sounds kind of daunting, too.
Right.
How do we actually put this into practice in our everyday lives?
Yeah.
How do we actually start confronting those fears and embracing that transformative process?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
It's one thing to talk about these ideas, but how do we actually live them?
Well, one way to start is by paying attention to the symbols and metaphors that appear in our dreams or fantasies, even in our everyday experiences. Those symbols often hold clues about what our unconscious is trying to tell us.
So it's like we're becoming these archaeologists of our own minds.
Exactly. And as we uncover those hidden treasures, we can start to integrate them into our conscious awareness and use them to guide our choices and actions.
This makes me think about those times when we have like a really strong gut feeling about something, even if we can't logically explain it. Could that be our unconscious trying to communicate with us?
It very well could be. Our intuition is often a manifestation of our unconscious wisdom.
Okay.
And it's important to pay attention to those gut feelings,
Right.
even if they don't seem to make sense at first.
Yeah.
They might be pointing us in a direction that our conscious mind hasn't quite grasped yet.
So how do we learn to trust our intuition more? I feel like sometimes I get those gut feelings, but then I second guess myself.
It's about practicing mindfulness and paying attention to our inner experiences.
Right.
The more we tune in to our bodies, our emotions, our thoughts, the more we'll start to recognize those subtle cues and signals that our intuition is sending us.
It's like building a relationship with our unconscious, learning to communicate with it and understand its language.
That's a great way to think about it.
Right.
And as that relationship deepens, our intuition becomes a more reliable guide. It's a process, it takes practice, but it's incredibly rewarding.
This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
We've explored the depths of our minds, discovered the power of the unconscious, and learned that meaning isn't something we find, but something we create.
Absolutely. It's been a fascinating exploration. And remember, this is just the beginning. As we continue to explore these mysteries of our inner world, we unlock even greater potential for growth, transformation, and fulfillment.
To all our listeners out there, I encourage you to embrace your own journey of self-discovery. Listen to those whispers of your unconscious and create a life that's both meaningful and authentically your own.
Absolutely.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep an open mind.
Until next time, may your deep dives be filled with wonder and discovery.